anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
Hello, and welcome to another Limit-Free Life show. We are broadcasting from the beautiful Sunset Gower Studios in Hollywood, California. This is UBN Radio, UBNradio.com. You can catch us on their website. You can also find us on my Facebook page, Limit Free Life, and we stream live on Facebook Wednesdays at 1 o'clock. And then you'll be able to find the show on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and some other platforms that I can never remember. So please go to iTunes, if you would, and listen to some of the podcasts. And I would love for you to subscribe to the Limit Free Life show and also to leave a review. Or, Facebook message me too and ask or let me know what you'd like to hear on the show. Because as we go along, we're about, I think this is show 29 or 30 or something. And I'd love to hear some ideas for some additional shows. This is a solo show I'm doing again today. And the next few will have guests. I really like to mix it up and to be able to bring tools and strategies and also interviews and stories to you regarding entrepreneurship, career transition, and money, particularly money mindset. So today I thought I would just do a show to kind of recap some of the questions that I get a lot out there in the world with clients and with other people. And maybe they're questions that you have since I hear them fairly often. And so it's geared mostly towards entrepreneurs, but the things we talk about certainly have some relevance to anybody who has a career, who is in business, or who might be thinking about a future career or a future business. So great just to get some insights into what other people are struggling with and also the answers that other people are finding. I went this morning to a breakfast meeting very early in downtown LA, and there was a speaker at the meeting, and he was the head of Herbalife. And he gave an interesting, very succinct talk, and he was talking to business owners, and he was speaking about business, and he brought up what so many of my guests have brought up, purpose. And, when successful people are asked about how they're successful, why they're successful, almost always they refer back to purpose. It's such a driver. It's so important. And when we get out, into the world, we're thinking making money and getting a job or starting a business, but it's driven by a lot of things. But ultimately, to really stay with it and to be successful, it really is about the purpose that you think you are fulfilling. And fulfilling purpose is really serving others, right? So when you're serving others, when you're doing things that are of service to either small segments of society or the whole, of society, it's all purposeful. And whether you're making music or whether you're curing a disease, it's all purposeful. You are bringing wonderful things to the world for other people to either enjoy or to benefit from in some way. And that it just keeps the flame lit. It keeps the fire going so that you want to get up and go do what you do, and your reason. So you feel the importance of it, and it just makes such a difference. And I keep hearing it over and over and over. And there's a great book called A Purpose-Driven Life, and he brought it up this morning, and I keep forgetting about that one. It is a great book, and it really talks about being of service. And the beginning of the book starts with, it's not about you. And I was reminded of that this morning, and I just thought that is such a good statement to remember almost every day. When you're up in the morning and you're getting yourself ready for your day, you might be panicked about something. You may have a big launch about to happen that you're nervous about. You may be, making sales calls that day that you're concerned about, and you really want to see some results. Maybe you're anxious. It's the end of the month and you don't feel like you've met your goals. you can always check yourself. I always talk about checking yourself with gratitude. That always kind of takes you out of either, anxiety or panic or fear or anger and centers you. But to also remind yourself that it's not all about you. That is another great way to bring yourself back to earth and realize there's a why to what you're doing. There's a purpose. You're doing this for a reason. And I know insurance folks who are very, very dedicated and committed to providing protection for people, for helping them to not fall into circumstances where they can be really hurt or lose everything. People don't necessarily think of people who are in somewhat traditional jobs or businesses as being in service, but they are. And the people who do well in any industry, in any type of career, are the ones who recognize their purpose in that. And they're just driven by something else, something much bigger than earning a paycheck or, some of the other reasons that people do what they do. So what we talk about here is creating work you love. And so in creating work you love, you really have to connect with that purpose. And we talk about it a lot, but I think it's worth bringing up a lot. And when I heard it this morning at this meeting, I thought, there it is again. And everybody's talking about it. And there are amazing people, huge CEOs of very large corporations. They're talking about it, just like the smaller business owners are talking about it. It is really essential. So that's one thing. People ask me sometimes, entrepreneurs will ask, well, I really want to start, or people about to start an entrepreneurial venture will ask you, where do I start? And that's a tricky question. But I always like to have them start with getting in touch with their purpose. And there's some work to do in that area. It's not quick. Sometimes we know our purpose right off the top of our head. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes a purpose will look like something, and if you start going deeper, it's really something else. So it's a really good idea to figure that out first and spend time with that. And as you go along, you have to remind yourself of what your purpose is. And one thing that the gentleman from Herbalife spoke about this morning was the purpose was broader when they started out. It's about, Herbalife today is about creating a healthier and happier world. When they started, I think it was a more broad, generic kind of term, which is fine. There's still a purpose there. But over time, it's been refined. And you can do that too. You can refine your purpose as you go. And I think that's a natural evolution of having a business, is the more you do, the more clients you serve, the more you produce, the closer you get to refining that purpose. It's, you can't stay in your head or figure this out on paper. You really need to figure it out as an experiential activity. So experience doing, that's everything. Making mistakes, it's all part of finding out that truer and truer purpose. Not only can you refine your purpose, but you can also find yourself getting away from your purpose. So it's really important to keep remembering your purpose, refining it, and also bringing yourself back to it if you start straying, because that can happen too. Things happen in the world, and maybe we see a need for something and we go, in a different direction, or maybe a company gets larger and starts buying other companies. In order to stay within its purpose, they have to be very discriminating about that. So also easy to get lost. And so you want to just make sure that you're refining it as you go, and also you're staying on track. So number one answer to what to do first if you're thinking about starting a business, I would say, is really get in touch with that purpose. And then keep it in mind and keep working on it as you go. So start with something and then keep on working on that. But the next answer to what do I do first would be to look at a lot of things and to frankly get started. If there's something that you want to sell, or something that you want to make, or something that you want to create, there's a tendency to want to do a lot of foundational work, and the foundational work is great, it's important, but while you're doing some of that foundational work, get out there and see if you can sell what you want to sell. Get out there and start making some of whatever it is that you want to make. So at least have some prototypes, at least have some things that people can look at, so you can do your research and do some field studies and find out, if you're developing a product, develop some of it, bring it out there and get some feedback. Find out, do people actually, would they pay for it? Do they want it? Number one, will it fill a need that they have? And do they actually have this need? Because a lot of times we think people need things that they don't actually really want. So coaching is kind of notorious for that, because every coach knows that people will benefit from coaching. And so, as a coach, you go out there and you're just like, oh my gosh, I know that I could get this person to move so much faster or be getting such great results if they would just get the coaching. And, but they don't always, even if they need it, objectively speaking, they don't necessarily want it yet, so they have to be someone who not only needs something, but also wants it. So when you put things out there in front of people and ask, it's a whole different thing. That's the other question that can cause you to change course, because sometimes people want something and need something, but really would be reluctant to pay for it. You want people who want it, need it, and will most of the time be willing to pay for it. So you want to get out there and you want to start actually, you might have a big idea for a company, but at least start it somewhere with, with going out there with the actual product or service and trying to sell it. That's a big deal. People like to do things like build websites and get on social media talking about it, which is not a bad thing. A lot of companies have, especially the younger ones, they get, a following on social media, and then all of a sudden, whatever it is that they sell, they've got this following to sell too. So actually the younger generations have figured out some pretty slick marketing that way. But in general, you don't want to hide behind your computer, and you do want to get out and you want to do more than just build the behind the scenes, setting up your books and getting your legal, the legalities of your business set up and getting your website all perfect. These are all things that can be done while you're getting out there and trying to sell whatever it is you're trying to sell. And it's very easy the selling is the hard part. Putting yourself out there and finding out if people like what you're doing, that's a little scarier. It puts you in a much more vulnerable spot. So people like to spend a lot of time on the foundational work, but meanwhile, you're spending money. You're spending money and you're not earning money. So it's really important. And that's something people think that they need to do. They need to invest a lot up front. Well, sometimes you do. And sometimes that works for you. But what if you want to start something and you really don't have money to invest up front? Best thing you can do is just get out there and start bringing in money, bringing in capital, so that you can start spending it, and kind of watch that balance. And sometimes that's a good motivator too. Sometimes if you need that money to be able to do some of the foundational work and the starting, processes and everything else, then you will get out there and maybe sell a little earlier than you otherwise would. So not a bad way to go, to feel that pressure, actually. But be cognizant of that, because I do know a lot of people who spend a lot up front on a lot of different things, training, coaching, hiring, materials, websites, other marketing material, when they don't really have income coming in yet. And so you want to try to right that ship a little bit and balance it out. Another question that we get a lot is how and when to hire help. Because, of course, as you're growing, as you're building, you are going to need help. There's only so much that you can do, and there's only so much you should do, because you're not, you're the brains and the visionary behind the business, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you are the best person to do every job in the business. And when you're an entrepreneur, you start out doing everything. And the more successful ones I know do actually get their hands into every aspect of it, but they don't necessarily stay there. They know enough to ask the right questions. They know enough to hire somebody in and then be able to have a sense of what they're, what they're doing and how they should be doing it, but they don't need to know everything about it, especially the more technical areas. I mean, some people are inclined that way. Some people aren't, but you don't want to be completely oblivious. You want to have a sense of what's going on so that you can audit and ask questions and know when things are going wrong. Lot of stories out there about people who have, for example, turned over their Facebook marketing and doing Facebook ads to somebody else, and then they've really just not even paid attention. And then they've spent a lot of money on it. They don't see any results. And then they go back and look at them and say, wow, these ads weren't really very good. So, I understand now why I haven't seen results. I was working with somebody who was recently spent a lot of money with a marketing agency to do some SEO optimization and some other things. And there wasn't much happening. The calls weren't coming in, and it was just kind of odd because he'd done this before and it had worked well, and so he was doing it again with a company that seemed even more, more able to do a good job, and the calls weren't coming. So one day I asked him if I could just see what they were seeing, and it was kind of shocking. I mean, it really was. It just wasn't good. It was like a name and a phone number. I mean, there wasn't anything there to really get somebody to want to call. So, and he hadn't looked at it. He was just trusting the agency. So again, another place where he doesn't have to know how to do this, but he does have to take a look at what the group is doing for him and see if it even makes sense. If you look at it and you think, wow, I don't think this looks that great, but they're the experts. They must know. No, you don't want to do that because they are the experts, perhaps, but they don't always know, and they don't always do things the way they need to be done or the way you want them done. So one of the things about hiring, we'll talk about this in a minute, but how do you oversee all of this? Because everybody knows that you need to delegate, but once you've delegated, what does that really mean? Do you just disengage? Do you just allow somebody to do it because the theory is that they can do it better than you, so that's why you're delegating? But just because they can do it better than you doesn't necessarily mean that they are following your vision, or they're not going to be able to read your mind, and that is an important thing. So you may have some ideas of what you're wanting them to do, and they may go off in a different direction, and both parties, they're thinking that they're doing what you want, but if you're not looking at it and you're not giving them feedback and communicating, then, how would they know, really? And that happens too. I see that a lot where there is a management team. And so let's go back to when to hire, okay? And then we're going to talk a little about how to hire. So when to hire. When to hire, a lot of people I talk to need to hire somebody, but they tell me, well, I don't have the money coming in to be able to hire. Okay, I'm not there yet. But in actuality, of course, if they do hire some help, they will probably quickly make more money and get to that place they want to be at because they need the help. They need the help to do it. So I personally think you should always hire a little bit before you're ready, a little bit before you feel like you can, and just try to make it work. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But most of the time, that extra money that you need to spend on help, it'll begin to come in, or you will find it somehow, and you'll just allocate it and make it work because it's so beneficial. And once you've worked with people, it's very hard to go back because you get used to being able to focus on what you want to focus on, and you get used to that help, and it becomes pretty critical. That said, so sometimes when to hire is when you feel like you're not making enough money. Because honestly, it's the lack of assistance or the lack of expertise in your business that is keeping you from making the money that you want to make. So think about hiring before you really feel good about it, before you really feel confident that you can afford it is really the key. And don't ever use the word afford, like I can't afford help. Think of it differently. Think of it as a much more positive. I believe that I will be hiring help soon so that I can, bust through this wall that I'm hitting by doing everything myself. Okay. So, how to hire? People ask all the time, how do I find good people? Well, it is a dilemma. And usually it falls back on the person hiring. That it's usually not so much that the people who are coming through interviewing for the jobs are not so good. It's usually that the person doesn't know how to make that decision that well, or doesn't know how to ask the right questions, or really doesn't know how to find good people. So I think that always comes back to the entrepreneur. It really is not easy, but it's something that you can do, and you have to put the effort into being a really good hiring manager, being somebody who can recognize talent, who knows what they need. Sometimes we hire people and we don't really know exactly what we need, and that comes back to knowing the job. So you need to know specifically what it is that you need that person to do. Down the road, that person will probably do more for you than what you planned or what you initially anticipated, and that's great. But right off the bat, you need to have your checklist of these are the key things that person needs to help me with. And then you need to find out, have they done it before? What did it look like when they did it before? One of the things that I think is a great idea is to give a potential hire some homework. So if you're hiring somebody to put together a Facebook ad or some short videos about something, or a PowerPoint presentation, give them a little assignment, give them something to do. Put together a report or a presentation and have them do a PowerPoint for you so you can see what it looks like. And that shouldn't be shouldn't be too much to ask. If somebody balks at that, then probably not the right person. But anybody who wants the job and is willing to show what they can do will be willing to do an assignment like that and show you what they can handle. You can also hire people on a temporary basis or on sort of a probationary basis. So you can give them a few months at the job, see how they're doing, check in regularly, and there's nothing wrong with that, just to make sure that it's, the old saying, hire slowly, fire fast, that is an important one. And a lot of times what happens is people hire very quickly because they need somebody, and they don't like the process anyway. Maybe they don't even trust themselves to hire the right person, or they don't really believe that the right person is out there, so they hire someone and hope that they'll do what they want them to do. And so often that doesn't work out. So keep looking to get somebody who seems to have potential, at least, and seems like you can get along with them. There needs to be a lot of communication. And I've seen a lot of people, surprisingly, who hire people and then don't really like interacting with them, which doesn't work that well. So you want to build a relationship. You don't hire somebody and just put them in a corner and hope that they're going to do a great job for you. It doesn't work that way. So what you need to do is make sure you have really regular conversations with them, and make sure that you're communicating what you need, you're giving them regular feedback, and you're allowing them to communicate to you what they think is important, because this is a mismatch that I see a lot. And it's hard because I can see the person in the job, let's say it's an office manager, really, really doing his or her best to give the person what they want, the person who they report to. And they're trying to be innovative too. They're trying to take initiative, and they're trying to come up with their own ideas for how they can help the company. So they do certain things that they think would be really helpful. And the person that is in charge doesn't see it the same way. They might be thinking, why in the world is this person spending time on that when I really want them to be doing X? And they think it's a given. They think it's just, obvious that what they want done should be done, but the person sitting there as the office manager, has no idea and thinks that what he or she is doing is a great thing to be doing and bringing into the company to help. So people observe what they observe, and it all filters through their own personal lens of what they know and what they've seen and what they think is important or not important. So that communication is critical, and it's ongoing. It has to continue. There is no hiring somebody and putting them to the side and hoping that they're going to do a whole lot of work for you. And I don't know why people think that in the first place, but a lot of people seem to. So anyway, constant communication, really dealing with expectations and communicating expectations, and then holding people accountable. That's the other thing I see is people get frustrated because the people working for them are not delivering. And they're the entrepreneur or the person in charge of this hire is frustrated and wondering why in the world they're not seeing what they want to see, but they're not saying anything. They're not giving the person deadlines. They're not telling them what their expectation is about when they should see it. And the other person is, again, making their own decisions about when it should be delivered. And there's a mismatch there. And then you end up with, sort of poor communication around that. So there shouldn't be these mysteries. Communication will solve those very, very quickly. So that would be my suggestion about hiring and really how to make that work for you. So, and I think hiring too many people at once can be kind of tricky. Sometimes it's good, actually. It depends. Sometimes there'll be a complete turnover and you'll have all new people and everybody's on board at the same time and kind of, they're all, as long as everybody is participating and there's communication between everybody, that can be a good thing because everybody's coming up with the same vision, the same plan, knowledge about the strategies and the actions that need to take place. But overall, that's a little overwhelming for a lot of managers or bosses or entrepreneurs. So not a bad idea to hire one or two people at a time, depending on how many you need, and just make sure that people are getting trained well and indoctrinated into the company culture and understanding the purpose of the company and the vision of the company. Everybody should know about that. That should be very, very clear so that decisions, again, there's less of a miscommunication about decision making when everybody is on the same path, working toward the same vision, but everybody has to know what that is. So, okay, so that's a little bit about hiring. Hiring comes up a lot. That is a big question all the time. Another question that comes up quite a bit is questions about marketing. What marketing should I do? Marketing is huge, obviously. Marketing is what brings the prospects into your world so that you can sell your products or your services to people. And there are so many ways to market now that it's wonderful, but it's also really overwhelming and it can be costly. So I always like a big mix of marketing. Some very people-driven, relationship-driven, some maybe more digital and online. But I would say whatever it is that you do, make some very specific decisions about it. And make sure it's diversified. I mean, just like a portfolio should be diversified, I think marketing should be diversified. There should be some that is much more face-to-face and some that is more online and some that maybe is, delivered in different ways, either through print ads or whatever. But I think that you want to make sure it's spread out so you're reaching, because today people, different people in different demographics are reached in different ways. People are on, we're not all on the same page. We're not all reading the newspaper like we used to. We're not all watching just the 6 o'clock news on ABC when we had just a few channels way back in the day. So it was much simpler. Now people are looking at things on all kinds of different platforms and different devices. There are a lot of people who are still reading magazines and newspapers. There are people who still watch television, and there are people who are always online. And so there are so many ways to reach people. And there are people who are just going to meetings and listening to, going to networking meetings or going to talks or workshops and things like that. And they're meeting people. And I have to tell you, people are very successful when they market that way, when they market face to face with other people. So just because we live in a digital age, don't discount the fact that, you can definitely do business in a group of other human beings, and it's probably one of the best ways. Speaking is one of the best ways to market yourself. So if you can get yourself out there and be in front of a group, the results come faster that way, because nobody has to take as much time getting to know you or seeing you over and over before they're interested in actually having a conversation. When they see you up in front of the room speaking, and it's almost like you're already having that conversation. And so, if there are 10 steps that you would have to go through before somebody would buy from you, you've probably, gone from 1 to 5. If you are speaking in front of a room, people have a good chance to hear you, see you, talk to you, know what you're about, and that's really a good way to take it to the next level a little bit faster. So, okay. So that's just some tips really on marketing. It's a big, wide open space. It's like the Wild West now for marketing. So, and do what you like. Don't necessarily use marketing tools that you dislike. Pick one social media platform that you really enjoy getting on and looking at, and one that you understand. So, if you do like speaking, there are a number of ways to speak these days. You can speak in front of groups. You can set up your own meetup. You can do your own workshops. You can, ask to be a speaker at an organizational meeting or association meeting. You can have a podcast or a radio show. I mean, you can be on YouTube. There's so many ways for you to speak to people these days too. So it really is exciting, but it can also be overwhelming. So make your choices, and you grow as you do this. And so the choices, I think, as you do enough of these things, the choices become a little more obvious because you've tried some things. Again, you know what you like, you know what you don't like, and you also get more expertise in certain areas. And so, so you have more opportunities because people get to see you and know you a little bit better. Okay, I have been talking a lot. I think I'm going to take just a 3-minute break here. I'm going to tell you a little about what I do and some of the services that I offer, and then I'll be right back with a couple more questions that people ask me as entrepreneurs. I think one of the most important messages I have to share with the world about the work that I do is that your work is yours to create. This is your piece of art that you can create in your life, and there's really nothing stopping you. Overall, most of us can learn what we need to learn and figure out what we need to figure out and create that fabulous career or business that we dream about. And there's really no reason to think that you can't. My name is Michelle Perkins, and I am the CEO and founder of a company called Limit Free Life. And I help men and women to make dramatic change in their lives so that they can have the fulfillment, fun, and financial prosperity that they have always wanted to find through their work. The main services I offer through Limit Free Life are one-on-one private coaching, group coaching, trainings and seminars, and business consulting. My signature service is one-on-one coaching over a period of time, 3 months, 6 months, even a year. It really allows a person to decide on an outcome that they desire, and then for us to work together to really achieve that outcome in full. The type of clients that I typically work with are professional men and women who are driven to do more, who might be entrepreneurs, but also career professionals who work in organizations, who are really looking to do more with their lives and very open to thinking in new ways about what they're doing, and who are willing to take responsibility, do the work, make some changes, and who don't say I can't a whole lot. Clients up-level in a number of ways. For some, they start a business after being in the corporate world. For others, they have an existing business and they really figure out the key and the formula to making that business grow and take off. For some, it's a matter of really developing courage. And for many, it's a matter of up-leveling their view of themselves, what they're capable of, how powerful they are, what their strengths are, and where they can go in life. What I see also is that there's a spark that kind of gets lit, and that flame keeps growing within them, and there are things that they want that maybe they were reluctant to even express that they wanted, and now they just go for it. They have bigger wants and bigger dreams than they had before, and this sense that they can achieve those things. I feel very strongly that money beliefs are foundational to developing a business that can scale and grow and become the business that you want it to be, whatever level of success that is. And for people who feel stuck or their business isn't going the way they want, a lot of times it comes back to some of these money beliefs. So as a certified money mindset coach, I have the training to help people understand where their hidden money beliefs are either interfering in their lives or businesses or coming into play in some fashion in all the decisions that they're making, both in their business and in their life. The overall mission behind my work is to help people love their work, to find satisfaction, fulfillment, fun, and also to be financially prosperous in what they're doing. That combination to me is a perfect recipe for making work a great part of your life. And so that's my vision, is for people to see work and money as allies in their life and things they can lean on so that they have something that makes them feel important and something that gives them a place to go to develop a sense of identity and purpose and meaning in the world. My greatest hope for my clients is that they will develop a holistic relationship with work, money, and life, and there won't be this separation where they go to work and then they live their life after work, and they will develop work or businesses that they love, that they look forward to going to, and they give them the freedom and the income and the happiness that they're looking for in their life. Hello and welcome back. We are doing a show today on really just common questions that entrepreneurs have about their businesses. So if you have a business, this is a great show for you. And I'm sure if I'm hearing these questions from some people, I'm sure the questions are out there for a lot of people. That is always the way it is. And so just really kind of a little conversation here about some of the common things that people run into when they have a business that might give them some trouble or that they want some answers to. So the next question I want to talk about is people will get to a point. So they start their business and they're doing well and they get to a point, but they want to grow beyond that. And so they find themselves doing the things that worked. So they keep doing them. And then the results are the same. And the results that they're getting were once the dream. They were dying to launch and have certain results. They got them, and now they just keep getting those same results over and over. So what do you do? Because the next obvious question is, how do I grow beyond this? This was good, and I appreciate it, and it's wonderful, but this isn't enough. I want to keep going. So everybody plateaus, and when you're making zero, maybe you want to make you're looking to make $50,000 or $100,000. Then you're making $50,000 or $100,000, and that's great. But you don't want to stay there forever either. So you keep setting these money goals that are higher and higher. And that can be for many reasons. It's not, I'm not saying this to instill any kind of greed. I mean, this is about being able to grow your business into, more of what you want to do. Maybe hire more people, or maybe give back, whatever it is. Just because you want to continue to make more and more money doesn't necessarily mean that money is the only motive of your business. It usually never means that. So it is, in fact, a good thing. It's also okay to not want to make more money. People will say, well, they get indignant and say, well, I'm making plenty of money for me and my lifestyle, and I don't want to make any more. And that's okay. It's all okay. This is your business. That's the fun of having a business. But for those people who do get to 100 and then want to make $250,000, and then they want to make $500,000, and then they want to get to $1 million. And those people who want to go from $1 million to 10 million, they do the same thing. You would think that once you've made $1 million, wow, you know how to make money, and so going to 10 million isn't going to be that difficult. But the hurdles that you go through in your mind, as well as the practical aspects of getting over those hurdles, it happens at each plateau. So it isn't really. You learn a lot as you're going, but there's always a new challenge. I have a coach who says, new level, new devil. So there's always something, no matter how successful you are, no matter how big you are, no matter how much money you're making, when you want to go to that next place, there's a lot more to learn. You have to do things differently. You cannot continue to do what you did and get to the next level. Doing what you've done before will keep you where you are, because those are the activities that got you to the place you're in now. So you need some new strategies, new actions, and again, probably you need to step out of your comfort zone and be a little different yourself. And then you can take your team and your company to that next level and have your team or your company actually develop and become something new. So some ways to grow, though, when you are feeling stuck like that, I would say I always like to, I wish I had a picture of it actually. I like to look at what I call a profit pyramid. So think of a triangle, and think of a triangle with lines, going horizontally through the triangle. And you have different products and different services, and they go from the bottom, which is basically free stuff, up to the little pinnacle at the top, which is your high-end, most expensive offerings that you have, products or services. And so you want to fill that in, and you want to look at it, and you want to say, you want to look at the different price points you have, the different types of products and services, and again, make sure that you have a bit of a diverse mix. And that always works really well. If you're only selling very high-end services or products, which we know companies that do that, that's okay. But understand that if you want to go to that next level, you're going to have to do something. So I think the easiest thing to do is to look at what you're currently offering, the prices and that the products are priced at, or the fees that are charged for services. Look at all of that and see how you can reshuffle that deck. If you can charge differently for what you're offering, if you can package things together. There are a lot of things that you can look at. And if you take that triangle and you make sure you look at every level of it, and you look at it differently with an eye for where you want to go and how much you want the company to generate, you can play with that. That's like a really fun little problem to solve. And you can do make a puzzle out of that and think of it differently. Usually if you have a visual in front of you, it's really easier for you to think outside of your normal box. And it's even better if you can move things around. So sometimes it's fun to take Post-its, put different things on it, and literally move them around on a piece of paper to see where you want to go and how you can put some things together to create packages. Or, there are so many different ways to think about it depending on the business that you're in. But the point is to rethink it. And if you're trying to get out of a place where you feel stuck, you need to rethink. And so lay everything out and shuffle it around and let some new ideas bubble up. So that's some thoughts on growing. And the last question I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to make it brief, is what am I not doing? So people get frustrated. Again, they see themselves maybe not reaching their goals, or things aren't going exactly as they want, even if they're going well. And so the question becomes, it's kind of a negative question. I don't really like negative questions, actually. So maybe a better question is, how could I do this better, or how could I do this differently? And then those answers will start flowing in. But the point is to look, whether you're asking that question or not, look at what you're not doing as much as what you are doing. So what we talked about a minute ago, ways to grow, we were looking at what you're doing. What about the things you're not doing? And I'm going to just tell you, I don't have very much time left, but I'm going to tell you one thing you are probably not doing enough of. And I know this from personal experience and from everybody else that I see and from clients I've worked with. It's probably sales. So if you are not getting out there, if you're a professional salesperson, maybe this doesn't apply to you. But for most entrepreneurs who are out there serving the world, running with their purpose, trying to be of service, trying to build something, chances are you're not spending as much time on sales as you need to, whether that's phone calls or, whatever it takes. I once heard Sandra Yancey, and I'm going to just tell you what she said because I thought it was really great. When she was starting up, she's the founder of eWomen Network and a lot of other things. And she used to take 10 Q-tips, and she would actually, I think, tape them onto her computer screen. And every sales call she made, she would make the call, she would pull off one of the Q-tips, and so she would make sure that every day she made 10 sales calls, and she used those Q-tips as her little guide. They had to. She couldn't leave the phone or the computer or whatever until all of those were down. So I thought that was kind of brilliant. So whatever game you need to play, if you go a week and you're thinking, wow, not much happened this week that I needed to happen, and you really ask yourself, how many sales calls did I make? How many connections did I make? How many phone calls did I make? How many people did I talk to about my services or my products? Look at it honestly, because that is for a lot of people what is not happening, what you're not doing, and that might be getting out there and actively selling. So, okay, that said, that is pretty much today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. We are here every Wednesday at 1 o'clock with the Limit Free Life Show. And again, I would love to hear from you. So send me a little Facebook message or something, and or post on Facebook, and let me know some ideas that you have for future shows or any questions that you have. And I'd love to hear some feedback. So again, please subscribe to the Limit Free Life Show on iTunes, and you can find me on limitfreelife.com. Have a fantastic and prosperous week.
In the future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com. Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network. 'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of hell. A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at ubnradio.com.
Limit Free Life Show. We are broadcasting from the beautiful Sunset Gower Studios in Hollywood, California. This is UBN Radio, ubnradio.com. You can catch us on their website. You can also find us on my Facebook page, Limit Free Life, and we stream live on Facebook Wednesdays at 1 o'clock. And then you'll be able to find the show on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and some other platforms that I can never remember. So please go to iTunes if you would and listen to some of the podcasts. And I would love for you to subscribe to the Limit Free Life Show, and also to leave a review, or, Facebook message me too and ask, or let me know what you'd like to hear on the show, because as we go along, I think this is show 29 or 30 or something. And I'd love to hear some ideas for some additional shows. This is a solo show I'm doing again today. And the next few will have guests. I really like to mix it up and to be able to bring tools and strategies and also interviews and stories to you regarding entrepreneurship, career transition, and money, particularly money mindset. So today I thought I would just do a show to kind of recap some of the questions that I get a lot out there in the world with clients and with other people. And maybe they're questions that you have, since I hear them fairly often. And so it's geared mostly towards entrepreneurs, but the things we talk about certainly have some relevance to anybody who has a career, who is in business, or who might be thinking about a future career or a future business. So great just to get some insights into what other people are struggling with, and also the answers that other people are finding. I went this morning to a breakfast meeting very early in downtown LA, and there was a speaker at the meeting, and he was the head of Herbalife, and he gave an interesting, very succinct talk, and he was talking to business owners, and he was speaking about business, and he brought up what so many of my guests have brought up, purpose. And, when successful people are asked about how they're successful, why they're successful, almost always they refer back to purpose. It's such a driver. It's so important. And when we get out, into the world, we're thinking making money and getting a job or starting a business, but it's driven by a lot of things. But ultimately, to really stay with it and to be successful, it really is about the purpose that you think you are fulfilling. And fulfilling purpose is really serving others, right? So when you're serving others, when you're doing things that are of service to either small segments of society or the whole, of society, it's all purposeful. And whether you're making music or whether you're curing a disease, it's all purposeful. You are bringing wonderful things to the world for other people to either enjoy or to benefit from in some way. And that keeps... It just keeps the flame lit. It keeps the fire going so that you want to get up and go do what you do, and your reason. So you feel the importance of it, and it just makes such a difference. And I keep hearing it over and over and over. And there's a great book called A Purpose-Driven Life, and he brought it up this morning, and I keep forgetting about that one. It is a great book, and it really talks about being of service and